Hello, thank you for joining. Thanks for subscribing and following this channel. In today's video, I'm going to tell you, microstakes player who has worked before, that rake is a trap at NL2 and L5. Don't play microstakes because it's just unbeatable. All this is not true, and you hear it a lot of times from professional players and streamers. I'm not exactly sure why, whether they want you to move up as fast as possible so they have weaker position in the stakes they play, or whether they just don't check the rake structures and repeat what they hear without checking. In this video we are going to look at the rake structure across different sites and different stakes, so you can see what I mean. By the way, I'm not saying you shouldn't move up. There are great reasons, a lot of reasons why, if you take the game seriously, your goal needs to be to move up as quickly as possible. The rake being unbeatable at microstakes is just not the correct reason, and in this video you'll see why. Let's have a look here at Party Poker's rake structure. On the right you see the rake is 1 cent per 20 cents in the pot, which is 5%. On the left you see that this is for all blinds, from 1 cent, 2 cent to $5, $10. Any stake has a 5% rake. The difference is the maximum, also called the rake cap, you see on the very right. The maximum is $1 up until 10 NL, and from 25 NL onwards it is a maximum of $3. This rake cap, this maximum rake, is very important to understand how much rake you actually pay. Because at NL2 you have a stack of $2, your opponent $2, so if both go all in, you have a pot of $4, not considering the 1 cent, 2 cent blinds. If $4 is the pot, the maximum rake the house can take, if it takes 5%, is 20 cents, because 5% of $4 is 20 cents. Which means at 2 NL you basically never pay the maximum amount of rake in a pot that you see here on the right. At 5 NL it doesn't look different. $5, your opponent $5, $10 all in, the maximum the house takes is 50 cents. So essentially up until 10 NL you pay no limit 5%, always 5%, unless you're super deep, is the rake the house takes. Only from 25 NL onward it starts changing a bit, because 25 plus 25, 50, so 5% is $2.50. So if the cap on other sides is $2, then the cap is a bit lower than the maximum they take if two 100 big blind pots go all in. Let's have a look at ACR, for example. You see that the rake cap is always $3 on the right for 5 to 9 players, but you also need to look, I didn't mention in Party Poker, the 2-player, 3-player, 4-player cap, especially when you play on tables that aren't always full-handed, but on some sites, the Zoom tables for example, you play 3-4-handed, or even reg tables when they aren't full. The cap on most sites, but not on all sites, is usually lower the less players there are. So if you take here on ACR, it's always $3 up until 200 NL, whereas the 4-player cap is $2. So at 25 NL already, when you're 4-handed, the cap is a bit lower than the maximum 5% you would take when two full stack players go all in. But the difference it makes is not much, because still, in almost all situations, because more pots don't go all in, but they end after the flop, after the turn, you play the 5%, the full 5%. Here I show you the ignition, or Bovada, Bodok, rake structure is essentially the same. What changes on these sides I'm showing you here is the rake cap, but even if the rake cap is reached sometimes, the difference in rake you'd pay is not much. For example, at 50 NL you usually play 7 big blinds per 100, at 25 NL 8 big blinds per 100. Let's say the stakes below you play like 9 big blinds per 100. So between 2 NL and 10 NL the rake on most sides, we are seeing some exceptions, is the same, and then at 25 NL it is a little bit less. And here's an exemption. Russian cash, GG poker, the rake is always 5% with a rake cap of 3 big blinds on the right. So on GG poker for Russian cash, it actually doesn't matter any stake you play. From 2 NL to 200 NL at Russian cash, the rake is the same. Keep in mind that Russian cash, like all the games at GG poker, charges pre-flop rake. So if you look at this chart, you actually think the rake is quite low. But on most sites for 200 NL, the rake cap is about 3 big blinds or maximum 4 big blinds. So you pay way more at GG Poker at these stakes. From a 100 NL onwards, you pay way more because of the pre-flop rake, which accounts for more than 2 big blinds per 100 usually, depends on your play style, how much you adjust instead of 3-betting, calling, etc. 25 NL, 50 NL, the rake cap is lower than on most other sites, but because of pre-flop rake, the overall rake you pay is the same. But for the micro stakes, this site is actually quite good, because even with a pre-flop rake, you don't end up paying more rake than on other sites that don't have a low rake cap. So as you can see so far, GG Poker micro stakes is definitely not less beatable than the higher stakes, and the micro stakes are a lot softer. So the reason to move up is not because of the rake. I hope I made this message clear. Just so you can see here, this is the regular table. So at GG Poker, you see the rake cap on the right. They are high, very, very high for the high stakes at GG Poker compared to other sites. So playing higher stakes at GG Poker is only worth it if your position is bad, if you have a soft table. On the low stakes at Russian Cash, I already said it's the same as any stake, and actually better than other sites often, not always, but better than many sites. And here the rake cap is not really low, as you can see on the right, so it's essentially no limit. So it's the same as other sites, but you pay the pre-flop rake, so be careful with regular tables at GG Poker. Make sure you have soft tables there. And now to PokerStars, because some sites they actually charge less than 5% for microstakes. They charge less for microstakes than for higher stakes. Like here you see below 50 NL, 25 NL or less, the rake on the left is less than 5%. The rake cap on the right, on the other hand, is almost like having no rake cap, because the 30 cents we mentioned here, 2 times all in, $2, $4, 20 cents would be the cap anyway if you are 100 big blinds deep. So there's essentially no cap, but a lower percentage, which will make up for the rake at NL25, NL50, in a way that I'm not saying it is less rake, but it is not considerably more rake that you need to be afraid to play microstakes because of high rake. Generally speaking, below 200 NL, so up until 100 NL, rake is high either way and the difference won't be much. Here is the Unibet rake structure, which is similar like PokerStars. The lower stakes actually have a smaller percentage, but in a more drastic way. As you can see, NL4 is only 1%, NL10 3% rake. So even though high caps, the micro stakes are actually worth, especially considering that if you see 100 NL, 200 NL has 6% rake. So Unibet really wants to favor the micro stakes players. But there are sites where it's the other way around. Have a look here at 888 Poker. For 2 NL and 5 NL, the rake is slightly above 5%. And also the rake cap, as you see on the right, is so high that you essentially never reach it. But keep in mind that 10 NL, 20 NL, 50 NL, the rake caps of $2, $2.50, $4, even 100 NL, $4 rake cap. You basically, up until 50 NL, rarely reach the rake cap, and from 100 NL onwards you reach it sometimes. But it's the same rule as before. Only from 200 NL onwards the rake actually gets considerably lower, and from 500 NL onwards it actually gets low comparably. So the rate difference, all the sites we're seeing, is not that great from 2 NL to 50 NL. It's not that big of a difference, but consider this here on 888 Poker, they charge a higher percentage, and not also only on 888 Poker, but also on the iPoker skins, so Betfair, Betson, William Hill Poker, and all the other skins there. You see that for up until 10 NL, it is 1 cent. You have to look down for the no limit tables, not the fixed limits. It is 1 cent for every 15 cents in the pot the rake. So yeah, maybe iPoker play 20 NL onwards, and if you're micro stakes player, 5 NL, 10 NL, 2 NL, play on a different side. But also take into account obviously how soft the tables are and the rake back you get. If you get a lot more rake back here, or you feel the tables are softer, it could be worth it. And to finish this rake comparison, I'm not going to show you always this rake structure, but there are sites like the Chico network or Winamax where the rake is across all stakes above 5%, so 5.5%, 6% rake, but it doesn't change for micro to higher stakes, only the cap is changing. But as the cap is always very high up until 50, 100 ml, the differences there aren't too big either between micro stakes and low stakes. So I hope you understood more about rake here. In my coaching, I always focus on making sure you get the best player possible, and this does mean I don't only focus that you understand how to play with the game, but also make sure that you know these sort of things, not only the rake, but everything you need to know about table selection, and you need to know about how to make as much money as possible, because essentially the goal here is, at this game, who can make more money. This is what poker is. Of course, there's strategic things and you want to compete in those things, but if you're a professional player, you need to know these things. Any questions, please comment here, send me an email or a message on Instagram. I left the contacts here in the YouTube description as always, as well as a GTO Wizard link for a 5% discount. And lastly, just because this is really an important point, I'll repeat again. I'm not incentivizing you to play micro stakes because the rake is slow. What I'm doing is you need to play the stake you are currently able to play. If you are a beginner, there's no problem in playing 2NL and 5NL until you beat these stakes. But when you beat these stakes, you are moving up because you want to play better position, to learn even more. You want to win more money, and you win more money the higher stakes you go. So when you're ready, you have to move up. But don't let anyone tell you, don't play the micro stakes because rake is too much. Play the stake you're comfortable to play the stake you have the bankroll to play, and move up when you're ready to move up skill-wise. Hope this is good advice to you, and see you in the next video.